Welcome to the History of the Space Between, Part 2. This is a three-part series with each episode covering a different era of the game's history. Era 2 spans from January 2024 to the exhibition demo in March 2024. So after we left off last time, it was around November, December of 2023, and I was getting pretty burnt out with the game. I didn't want to do anything else because every time I tried adding something, it would break, and I'd have to spend weeks and months fixing the bugs, and I didn't want to keep doing stuff. Then it kind of set in January, really late December, I don't know, something like that, oh yeah, I'm doing this for a school project. I kind of got to do this and actually make progress on this. Because I had just been procrastinating. It was really nice to take a break from November to January about that time, but it was time that I got back to it. So right as my Christmas break was ending, I just decided to get back on the TSB grind and start making tons of new stuff. So I cranked out most of the Buzz Brawler, the first boss, in the span of a couple days, I think. January 5th, 2024 was when I finished it. Beta 1.6.1 added the Buzz Brawler in a demo version of the mall area, which will eventually turn into the full mall with several floors, and he'll be on the top floor. Added a demo version of the mall area in which the player can find a trigger that initiates the Buzz Brawler fight. Added the Buzz Brawler 300 HP, and that was his base HP, and I think the sword did 20 damage or something, so I think it was like 15 hits to kill. We had to rework him a lot. He had 2 attacks at first, and then I added a third. So right now he has this melee attack where he just chases you, and if he's close enough, will deal damage to you, just like things like the other enemies in game. He also had a slightly smaller chance to stop chasing you, go a certain distance away from the player, and throw a beer bottle at you, which will do some decent damage, actually. And he also has the Molotov attack with the lowest chance out of the 3 of them. He will go above the player, hover there for a minute, and just throw a Molotov down on you, which will drop fire. I figured it was time to start getting art down, because that was the main thing we didn't have yet. We had all this really cool code stuff. Everything worked functionally the way we wanted it to. The first boss was in. For this, like I said, for this demo, I realized, for this school project, I can't make an entire game. I'm not going to be able to do everything I want with the space between for this exhibition demo. So that's exactly what I decided to make it into, the exhibition demo. It just became this kind of thing among the team. And at this point, I had invited Kiika and Iconic to the TSB server, and they hadn't really done a whole lot yet because I hadn't had anything for them to do. They were mainly just, I think I even typed it out one time, just another brain to bounce ideas off of. And that was all we needed at the time. I just needed a second opinion, people to say how it seems to them. I needed an outsider's opinion. But it was finally time that, with all the cut down features and all the programming done, it was time for art. So, seeing as though I did not have many ideas for what to turn the actual art into, because this is what we had at the time, scary, I had Kiika concept some enemies for the game, and they gave me this picture, this concept image. It was really simple, didn't take long at all. I think it had this little guy in a trash can, this little rat, and like an oil slime, and then some ambient enemies like eyes in a window or something, and it listed out where they'd be for. I was like, oh, this is really cool. So I decided to make the trash guy into as the new version of the little weird red and black shadow enemy. So I think that was the first thing I animated. It was actually the dummy, the test dummy in the practice room. I got a basic line art style down for it, and then I got to work on the dummy. Made him some really simple animations, pretty low frame rate, but you can just hit him and he dies. That's all we needed. It was just these simple little dummy guy. And it looked really cool, but it looked really out of place because everything else was still this programmer art, solid blocks and scribbly low quality stuff. And then there was just this really cool looking dummy in the middle of the room. So I started adding the Rubbish Rascal with the concept that Kiika provided. Implementing the animations wasn't perfect at first. There were a couple kinks to work out, but after that was done, it was time to work on the player. I hopped on a call with Kiika, and we had a rough idea of what we wanted, but we had to figure out things like outfit, name, all that stuff, and just like the general style of people in the game. Like when we first decided to restart the game, like let's do a game again, I came up with this rough concept for like 3 different styles that we could do people in, and we ended up picking the first one, I believe, or a mix between the two, I think. And so we were kind of using that as our reference, and after a long time of talking on VC, we decided on something like this. Now, if you've seen the way the character looks now, you might think he looks a bit awkward because we decided to literally just take it and squish him, just to make it a perfectly circular head and just like a shorter build to make it look more compact and cartoony, you know? The main thing we wanted for the character was these dark, soulless looking eyes, because I think it's really cool that it's up to the viewer, to the player, the one playing the game, to interpret what the eyes mean, like what kind of emotion they're portraying, because I really want this to be the player's adventure. Like they kind of control what they do. That there's no level 1, level 2 in this game. You can it kind of depends on where the world takes you. You control your journey. It's not a predetermined path that you have to follow. Obviously, you can't get everywhere. There's gonna be some blocks, but I want this to be the player's journey, and depending on how the player is feeling in a certain situation, I want the character to be able to look like they can represent that. If you look at this image right, it depends on how you look at it. The player can seem scared. It can seem empty. It can seem fierce. It can look all these different ways if you just try and picture it the right way. And it can also look terrifying, like on the death screen. What have you done? It's just the player's black, soulless eyes staring out of the void at you. What have you done? How could you? You died. Stuff like that. I thought it was really cool. And that's what we wanted. And it also saves me the struggle of having to draw eyes. So that's always a plus in my book. After we got that down, it was time to start rendering him. This took the most time by far out of anything I've added to the game yet in terms of drawing, because there were so many different sprites for him. This was really rough to get animations to work. The way I had the player animations set up at first with this singular sprite placeholders where he was just a little stick figure, they weren't going to work anymore because I didn't have specific sprites for a lot of things, So the in-editor Unity animation system wasn't going to work. I had to make a new one. And I really ridiculously overcomplicated it. It was so bad because I did not know about the Unity any state transition thing, which basically says no matter what state you're in, like no matter what animation you're playing right now, as long as these parameters are true, you can turn to this. So all you can say is any state. From any state, as long as you are facing left and you get hit, you play the left hit animation. The way I had it at first was I had to make every single animation, then all of them have a transition to the left hurt animation. Every single other node says if you are facing left and get hit, play left hit, instead of just going from any state. So with all of those combined, having probably, I don't know, like 10 or so true or false arrows coming out from each animation node, this is what it looked like. And I still have this saved in the files of the game because I think it's funny. It is scary. It's like I'm trying to summon something with this, but it was just me trying to animate. So after all of that work, you'll never guess how simple it was to actually get it working. I went from this to this. This is all I needed. Any state is such a valuable thing in Unity animation. I wish I would have heard about it sooner because it literally probably took me like 3 hours at least in combined time working on the Nightmare animator. But it's fixed now, and I also fixed all the other animation systems, so now they also use any state in if possible. So it all was right in the world. And well on that VC, when we were concepting the character, we needed a name for it. And I was looking up different names that mean different things, you know. I think what I ended up looking up was names that mean alone, which I don't know why you'd ever want to name your child Alone. Like, oh, you're going to be so lonely when you grow up. Like, I don't know. I had to scroll through a lot. There were a couple cool ones, but not like good ones, you know. Nothing felt right. They didn't stick when I suggested them. So I got to the E's section for boys' names that mean alone, and I found this Italian name that means leader or one who stands alone. Because it kind of means alone, but also one who stands alone is he's on this like journey by himself. You know, there's no like team of NPCs you can get behind him. You know, this is your adventure and you are controlling it. And that name is Enzo. And the moment I suggested that to the server, it stuck. His name was Enzo, definitively. Everyone liked it. Now that we had a name picked out and everything, and all the animations done, including those for the Buzz Brawler, which, might I say, is one of my favorite things I've ever drawn. He's such a guy indeed. It was time for the world art. This was not well executed, I'm going to be honest. Looking at it from what I know in terms of art and like how to make stuff like world art in Unity now, even though this was just a couple months ago, I could have done this so much more easily, and we are currently planning on reworking it. Like, as of this recording day, we are trying to remap out the world to expand the first level. I took the in-game map of what we had, you know, the layout, just a screenshot from Unity, from the editor, to see what the level looked like, all zoomed out. And then I took it into Ibis Paint, made a massive canvas, and just drew out each thing. There weren't many separate layers. It was just this top layer that shows above the player, and this bottom layer that shows underneath the player. It was terribly executed, and it resulted in things showing up in really bad quality in-game. Like, everything's all pixely when I drew it in really high quality. I don't even know if that's a problem with importing into the game. I think it's just because I was drawing something so small and then you zoom so far into it. And so now we're trying to figure out how to do things with tiling and just building objects, like images that you can place into the scene wherever you want a building and then adjust it individually, rather than all the buildings being attached in the same image. There have been a lot of problems along the way, and a lot of things that I've learned even now. Like, this happened in February, maybe January, and it's only, and I'm already questioning whether that was good or not. No, I'm not questioning it. It was not good. But that's, you know, it shows that we're improving. We're realizing how to make this game the best possible. Now, after all the world art was done, you know, we got the practice room down, we got the mall done, everything was ready except the UI. We didn't have actual buttons, actual nice loading screens. It was still the space between the lovely background drawn by yours truly. So it was time to do that. One of my most favorite things to do, one of the things I'm best at in terms of drawing, is background art. I consider myself a background artist for all the different projects that I'm working on. And so it wasn't hard to do these. I made this generic overlook of the lonely city with the moon in the background because I thought it looked cool for a placeholder menu screen. Obviously, we'll have something cooler at some point with all the different levels showing up like that. But this is what we needed for now because it was the exhibition demo. It was just the lonely city. I didn't need to show off the forest level if you can't play the forest level. That just seems like clickbaiting people into playing our game. So I whipped that up, and Kiika actually made us a button sprite. And I found this pretty cool font that looks like a typewriter that you can just slap onto it. So we had our buttons, we had our menu screen all set up, and I even got the death screen set up. But now we needed the logo. Although the logo took a while, we started with a concept and then we had Kiika render it out for us. And it ended up really cool, and it's one of my favorite parts about the game so far that we have, like, complete. And I'm almost 100% certain this is what we're going to continue to use well into the future. I don't plan on reworking this at this time. But then again, I didn't plan on reworking my method for the world art, and so who knows. But once the logo was done, I added some simple credits that played once you defeated the Buzz Brawler, which has since been taken out of the game for, so we can work on it more. And it was time. The game was all polished and ready, and it was time for the exhibition demo, where I had to go to my school, and for a total of 3.5 combined hours, I had to just sit at a table and let everybody play the game and see what they thought about it. It was really fun to see what other people thought about it, other than the people who I'd been showing my progress on the game to for months at this point. I had showed it to a small group of people at one point, and they thought it was really cool. Of course, everything went wrong when I tried to show it off. Like, I didn't have any HP, I couldn't respawn, everything was broken. But they got the point, I got to show it off to people, and it was really cool. But now it was time. We got the laptop running the game on like the lowest brightness possible so the laptop doesn't die. And over here we got the thing for the people to play. We got
space between, and then you can play it. Oh my goodness gracious.
These people had never heard of the space between. They have no idea what we're gonna add. And that was the biggest problem that we had when trying to make the exhibition demo interesting. I don't think it was. It was cool. It was cool that I made a game. That was the cool part about it. But it wasn't something anyone would download because there was a singular boss. But that's been our biggest problem, is making sure it would actually be enjoyable to somebody. Because right now, I would not say it is yet. Maybe it's getting more so, but like, it's not going to be enjoyable unless you know what we're going to add. And that's not how games should be. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to play it now because it's going to get better in the future. I promise. People are going to want to play a game that is good now. So it was really cool to see what everybody thought about it. There were so many people that came up. We had one for all the students to come up and play it, and out of all those people, only one person beat the Buzzed Brawler without me having to give them free heals and reset their HP and stuff, which was kind of surprising, but I guess maybe most of them aren't gamers, I guess, or we buffed the Buzz Brawler too hard. Either way, it was really awesome to see what they all thought about it. And this is actually where I started talking to Yoshi a lot about the game. He was at the same table as me. He was presenting like a D&D campaign that he made. It was really cool. We got 30 minutes left. Only one person has actually beaten the game so far.
Were you expecting any more?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I nerfed the Buzz Brawler beyond belief. And we just got to know everything about the other person's project because we had to hear each other run through our spiel so many times. And so he started to get really interested in the game because obviously I had told him a bit about it before. He had come up with some ideas for, oh, you should add like a stop sign weapon. That'd be cool. But this is where he started getting pretty interested in it. And I started considering inviting him to the development server, which he's now in. He's actually listening into this call right now to make sure I don't say stupid stuff, which I've said several of. So thank you. A little later, we had the exhibition for other friends and family, parents and stuff to come in and see it. That was also really cool, but even less people beat the Buzz Brawler, and if you know what's less than 1, it's 0. Nobody beat the Buzz Brawler at the second expo. Either way, it was awesome, even though we were just sitting there for hours dying. But it was cool. And after this is when things started to kick into gear, because we weren't making it for a specific thing in mind. This is the exhibition demo. It's this closed, sectioned off bubble, this little section that you can't add features outside of this because we're not going to need it for the exhibition demo. You know, you can't make this art yet or add this enemy yet because it's not going to be in the exhibition demo. But now we were free. The exhibition was done, and we could just go wild, adding with whatever we wanted to the game. But that's for next time. This is the end of Era 2, January 2024 to the exhibition demo. Era 3 will cover March 2024 to now. This stage that we're at now with making everything public, sharing it with you guys, and starting to put the space between out into the world for everybody to see. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.